We're a fan of everything the Warriors have done because they take care of their own, as Mr. Springsteen, among others, have said. And, D.A., we talked yesterday about Iguodala, right? David West. We know about Livingston, which was underrated, a big move for 3 years. So now we're set with those guys, but maybe some swag on its way to Golden State. What's the latest about a new addition?
Yeah, I think at first blush you might be surprised by this, but interest between the Warriors and Nick Young is real, and it's mutual. Obviously, the Warriors know the head coach of the Lakers, Luke Walton, and the intel they got is very good on Nick Young, and they feel like he can be a part of things next season. I mean, Ian Clark's going to Chicago. They have a role for him, a scoring, shooting wing off the bench, a guy who has played better defense the last few years than he did when he first came into the league. And there's a track record with them with JaVale McGee last year, bringing in a guy whose reputation maybe wasn't as good when they got there, but when he got there, he played very well and filled his role out very admirably. So they feel like it's a fit. Now, they don't have the shots, they don't have the playing time that some other teams do. He did meet with the Pelicans yesterday, and that's exactly the position that they gave with him is, you can start for us, play off of Anthony Davis, play off of DeMarcus Cousins, and play off of Jrue Holiday, and we'll get you the ball. That's an argument. And so he's weighing all of those things right now. But Warriors and Nick Young, yes, he's thinking about it. The opportunity to win a championship is very alluring right now for just about every veteran player in the league.
Yeah, D.A., hang tight, because it's interesting because the Pelicans thing, which I didn't even know, you think about, we had Coach Gentry in here, they need a shooter desperately. No offense to Etuan Moore and the Solomon Hill contract. That would be interesting, but Let's talk about it. I remember I saw a comment, Smitty, that Nick Young had before last season. He said, I had one hand out of the career grave. He has risen up, played well. Does he fit in with a team that seemingly plays as unselfishly as anybody?
Yeah, I think so with the Warriors. I think a lot of teams fit in. And I think Nick Young, like we said, I'm to the opponents too, is if you have some guys that are young, but I want to know, is he a good guy to his core? And of all I've heard and being around him, that Nick Young is a good guy. I mean, he's had some challenges off the court, but I think he's matured. He can flat out score the basketball. And the one thing that people don't realize is he's a big two guard. And he's a guy that can get his own. So I think with the Warriors, it's a perfect situation if he wants to win. But I wouldn't fault him if he wanted to go to the Pelicans, maybe have a role where he'll get more shots, get a chance to make some more money. Both those options are great for him. I would love to see him in Warriors as a fan. But I think other teams wouldn't want to see Nick Young, a guy coming off the bench with that type of productivity coming off the bench for the Warriors.
Yeah, Spenny, it's like we were talking about earlier. I mean, the difference maker with the Warriors as compared to most other teams is that bench. We were talking earlier about Sean Livingston and his ability to bridge the gap offensively and defensively when, some of the big four are not on the floor. You take Nick Young, who I think is at an elite level in terms of what he does, and that is providing instant offense, a guy that can get his own shot, separate from the defense, and score in bunches like a Jamal Crawford. You take him and put him against second-line guys along with Sean Livingston on the floor when Curry's sitting or Durant is sitting, and I think all of a sudden you don't take much of a dip in terms of firepower, when you have to rest guys. And I like the fit a lot, and if culturally he can fit in, I think it's a no-brainer for the Warriors.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And just for me, Stu, we've been around a long time. Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston sent a message to the league that they want to win. Because both those guys, I think, could have got more money, Stu. And I think for those two guys to take the money they did, they want to win. I think that sends a huge message to the league. I obviously re-signing Curry and Durant. But with two glue guys like that, so they want to take less to keep winning, I think that's scary for everybody else.
I want to find out about the finances, but I got to ask you one quick question from a building a team standpoint. Having been in that spot, the chemistry. With a team like this, I would assume it's like you're a chef. You got a great sauce. You know how good it is. If you're going to tweak it, how much more goes into now, Stu? Take us through that behind the scenes, adding anyone. Look, Iguodala, we knew. Livingston, we knew what's there to say at dinner when they go out and meet. I mean, really. But how much more now goes into it just from the psychological standpoint of I make sure that I sign a guy who fits in with the rest of my group?
Casey, it's a huge issue, and it's why, as we go through free agent fever here, and you talk about other teams adding multiple players to their mix, a team like Minnesota, you just don't know what that formula is going to look like until you get it together. If you're the Golden State Warriors, you're in a little bit different position, right? If you're only adding like one piece, and all you need to do is make the determination of whether or not that piece will fit in with your existing players, it's a little bit easier, particularly when you come into a winning culture and a culture with great player leadership. You know, where teams have to be concerned is where they don't have that great internal player leadership. That's not the case in Golden State. So absorbing somebody like Nick Young isn't as big a concern for them as it may be other teams.
Case in point, JaVale McGee, what we saw with his growth could get some money elsewhere. Speaking of money, Eric Pincus, give me a sense of, I have a feeling the taxes, you know, I lived on Long Island in a house. We complain about them. I'm pretty sure that they're not what Golden State's going to pay, especially if they bring on Swaggy, right?
Yeah, well, if they were paying, let's say they were paying $130-ish million for their team before Swaggy, and they add another $5, I mean, that could bump it up like another $15 million in tax. If they get up to 140 by the time they round out the whole roster, maybe $50 million in tax. That's crazy money. So, I mean, they'll probably end up around $45 million in tax, 40. They're going to have to just be really careful to mine their numbers. But, I mean, I got to say this about Nick. I've covered the Lakers out of Los Angeles, and he's a good dude. Smitty's, he's genuinely a good person. He's kind. He means well. He does some things that are maybe immature every so often, immature 30-year-old, but, you know, who isn't? I mean, come on. He's a good dude.
Eric, I got a question for the capologist. What would ticket prices look like in Golden State now? No, I'm just messing with you.
When they move to San Fran, oh, man, it's going to be expensive, too.
I'm just messing with you.
I'll tell you what, though, you can't go into that new building without your existing roster.
Yes.
I mean,
no.
You know, it's a small factor.
Come on.
But you're not
huge.
going to that new building without that championship team. We got to make that ring ceremony look intact.
Got to have that group.
There may be more people watching us on NBA TV rather than going if the ticket sales are high, but we'll see. Enough about that.